Hello, I am Peter Okwacha. Welcome to Focus on Africa, our top stories. A nation celebrates. Will South Africa's stunning victory in the Rugby World Cup help unify and heal divisions in the society?
It's inspiring these dirty streets of Mthembu. It's inspiring the country as a whole. It's inspiring the continent.
The Nigerian army condemns an apparent extrajudicial killing and vows to investigate after a graphic video emerges. Police in Uganda fire tear gas to disperse journalists during protest against alleged brutality by officers. Also on the program,
Me, I came to enjoy. I just want to enjoy. I need more bread and butter.
we meet Nigerian singer-songwriter Lady Donli and find out the roots of her alternative music. And in sports, dive? What dive? Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp says Sadio Mane is not a diver. Thanks for joining us here on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. Celebrations have been continuing in South Africa to mark the country's victory in the Rugby World Cup final against England in Japan on Saturday. The victory under Siya Kolisi, the team's first black captain, was another symbolic moment for the Springboks. In 1995, former President Nelson Mandela famously celebrated on the podium with Captain Francois Pienaar after their first World Cup win. And with the country experiencing political divisions and economic crisis, it is hoped this win could bring the country together. The BBC's Nomsama Seko sent this report.
Celebrations are continuing after the Springboks crushed the favourites, England, who simply couldn't find a way through a resolute South African defence. The festivities are not just about the scoreline, but because Siya Kolisi, the first black captain in the country's rugby history, lifted the Webb Ellis Trophy. And on the streets of Zwide Township, where Siya Kolisi grew up, his neighbours have composed a song in his honour. And in Siya Kolisi's old rugby club, many now dream of following in his footsteps.
It was just an amazing atmosphere. Really, the people's, enjoying it, everybody together as South Africa as one nation.
This is actually something positive that we can actually celebrate as a country, and well done to the Boks.
This victory has given a historically racially divided nation a much-needed boost for social cohesion.
If sport is a unifying kind of ingredient, so it be it. South Africa is a beautiful country. It's got beautiful people, but it needs healing. And that healing must be sustainable.
Fans and enthusiasts say it may lift a divided nation up where it belongs, united. Nomsama Seko, BBC News, Johannesburg.
So as you heard there, South Africa needs healing. Well, let's speak to Ralph Matheka, a South African political analyst who joins me now from Johannesburg. Ralph, the captain of the 1995 team that won that trophy for the first time, Francois Pienaar, says this victory is more important than theirs. Is that right? Will it bring the country together?
Well, I do believe that South Africa, Peter, it needs this victory right now. If you look at the current race relations, it's actually not so good. You spoke about the internal division and the political system that is just not helping the nation to heal. And indeed, now South Africa needs this victory very much. But the reality is that the South Africa of 1995 that actually had Nelson Mandela raising the trophy is a different South Africa that we have today. Today, you have the South Africa that has lost that innocence, the South Africa that is quite cynical about its politics, having experienced the political system that fails to deliver to the majority. So as much as South Africa needs this now, it is a very different South Africa now.
On Saturday, we saw President Ramaphosa wearing the same number 6 Springbok jersey Nelson Mandela so famously wore in 1995. Now, he really has no choice but to milk this victory, right?
Yes, he has got no choice at all. I mean, as the president, as a political leader, he's been pressured politically. He is unable to implement his reform agenda. You spoke about the economic crisis. Each and every day in South Africa, you wake up to the figures indicating new high levels of unemployment. So sports could be a platform through which the president can just try to earn more legitimacy, maybe a platform through which he can build a consensus. But I think that our politics is such that his detractors are already looking in that direction. I mean, the economic freedom fighters, leaders have already poured water on this victory, saying that, look, this victory has got nothing to do with racial unity within South Africa. We are back at our ways of inequality and so forth. So this victory will not go as far as Mr. Ramaphosa might want it to go.
Indeed,
it is
Ralph,
going to be
you
contested.
mentioned racial equality there, and a lot has been said about Siya Kolisi being the first black player to lead the Boks to the World Cup trophy. At the same time, a white member of that team, Eben Etzbeth, is being accused of racist insults back home.
I mean, Peter, this is the irony of South Africa, where everything happens at the same time. This is the moment of glory for someone such as Siya Kolisi, a black captain who is leading this team in a moment such as this. Equally, at the same time, you have got this Eben, the player, a prominent player, of course, facing allegations of racism far back here. It's just the irony of South Africa. This is how mixed, I would say, reactions this victory will bring among South Africans. And unfortunately, this is what South Africans are used to, a bittersweet victory, if you like.
And so just tell us, Ralph, how long do you think the glow of this victory is going to last in South Africa?
I'll tell you, Peter, I was there in 1995 during that moment. No one critically discussed that victory, what it meant for South Africa by then. Everybody took it as a victory that symbolized the Rainbow Nation with Nelson Mandela. But as I'm talking to you now, there are already opinion articles in our newspapers questioning this victory. There are already political, I will say, differences on this. So it will depend on how far President Ramaphosa will try to squeeze. I think that he won't try to squeeze much of a political mileage out of this, knowing the level of cynicism that just exists in South Africa currently. It won't last too long.
Ralph Mateka, thank you very much for your insight into this story. A political analyst speaking to me there from Johannesburg. Thank you. Let's take a quick look now at other stories making the headlines across Africa and the rest of the world. 9 sailors from the Philippines have been abducted by suspected pirates in Benin. The men were taken while their ship was docked in harbor at the port of Cotonou. The Norwegian owners of the ship say the crew were taken while waiting to discharge their cargo. The Kenya National Bureau of Statistics releases the results of the 2019 census. It shows Kenya's population increasing by about 9 million people in the last decade to 47.5 million. This was the 6th census since independence and the first time that intersex people were recognized. The Nigerian government says it will keep its land borders closed until until the end of January 2020. The closure to trade at Nigeria's borders was imposed in August. The country's immediate neighbors, Cameroon, Benin, Niger, and Chad, have all been affected by the action. Ghana and Togo have also been hit. Let's stay with Nigeria because the military in that country has vowed to investigate and punish any of its personnel who are involved in extrajudicial killing. It follows a video making the rounds on social media showing men dressed in Nigerian military uniform torturing and then killing a suspected Boko Haram terrorist in the northeast. Well, let's go live to the Nigerian capital, Abuja now, where we can speak to our reporter, Chris Ewoko. Chris, what else has the Nigerian army said about this video?
Well, the Nigerian army has condemned the action of those involved in the gruesome killing of the suspected jihadists. The army said that the act is completely unacceptable, it is unethical, and is against the values of the Nigerian army, especially that of respect for others and their fundamental rights. The army spokesman, Colonel Sajir Musa, said that troops in the various theater of operations in Nigeria have consistently been warned that they should respect human rights of people. It said that they should desist from any form of abuses, especially no matter the kind of desperation, anger, or provocation.
Now, Chris, does this response by the Nigerian military come as a surprise? Because in the past, they have denied that their troops are carrying out extrajudicial killings and torture.
Well, the response is not really coming as a surprise. Over time, human rights organizations in Nigeria have accused Nigerian armed forces of carrying out extrajudicial killings, but yeah, the military usually deny the allegation. The current video has actually sparked outrage, especially among human rights activists in Nigeria. And earlier today, Amnesty International Nigerian office called on the Nigerian Army institution to ensure that investigation into this video and those involved be made public, and that Nigerians are fully briefed of the outcome of their investigation.
Okay, Chris Ewoko, our reporter, speaking to me live there from Abuja in Nigeria. Thank you very much. Now, in Tanzania, authorities have banned trade in Nduta refugee camp, home to over 70,000 Burundian refugees. Those in the camp say the move is to force them to leave. Over the weekend, the camp's main market was destroyed. Tanzania abandoned its original plan to forcefully repatriate the refugees 3 weeks ago after the United Nations Refugee Agency raised concerns. Sami Awami sent this report.
Reports from the refugee camp say the owners of the shops were given very short notice before security officials started to demolish the shops. The refugees say the officials told them as the repatriation process is ongoing, all the markets at the camp have to be closed and demolished. For many refugees, these shops were an important source of income. They also helped to reduce reliance on camp handouts, which are often not enough. Some refugees at the camp have interpreted the demolition of their shops as a way for the Tanzanian government to impede on their income, but also to force them to return back to Burundi. While the Tanzanian and Burundian government claim Burundi is now safe for refugees to return, some refugees who have returned home and other rights activists believe the country is not yet entirely safe and peaceful.
Sami Awami there from Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News with me, Peter Okwoche. Still to come on the program, Mimi with the sport. With South Africa's rugby success, there's momentum to grow the sport in Nigeria. I'm Peter Okwoche. The top stories this hour. Can South Africa's stunning victory in the Rugby World Cup help the country unify its divisions? The Nigerian army condemns an apparent extrajudicial killing and vows to investigate after graphic video emerges. Police in Uganda have fired tear gas at journalists in the capital Kampala during protest against alleged police brutality. 5 of the journalists were arrested but later released. The BBC's Patience Atware sent this report.
Journalists have been at the receiving end of strong police action in the last couple of weeks. This group had hoped to have a peaceful procession through the city centre, but it turned out different. Another group nearly made it to the police headquarters before they were intercepted.
The journalists were hoping to deliver their petition to one of the senior police officers, but they've been blocked here just meters away from the police headquarters. And the police officers here do not seem to be wanting to listen to their demands.
Their leaders say that this is an indication that the brutality being visited upon them is not accidental.
This for us confirms that the beatings are deliberate, and that they really look at us as enemies. They're not even willing to sit with us and deliberate on a future for the safety of journalists.
He's a journalist, he's a journalist.
This reporter was snatched from the hands of the police by his colleagues while he covered student protests at Makerere University more than a week ago. The attack left his camera and recorder damaged.
Out of the blue, a police officer comes straight heading, focusing on me and shouting, "This one is taking photos." So as he comes, there is another one who comes from behind me, and he grabs the lens of the camera, and then as I withdraw from this one who was coming to me, he grabs my arm and twists.
The police spokesperson has not responded to our interview requests regarding Monday's events. But Ugandan security forces have a history of brutalizing members of the media, although such actions are always blamed on individual over-enthusiastic officers.
Patience Atweire, BBC News, Kampala.
Now, Sudan's Prime Minister has become the most senior government figure to visit camps for displaced people in Darfur since the region was devastated by conflict in 2003. Abdallah Hamdok, who took up his post in August, promised to bring peace and economic stability to Darfur. More than 1.5 million people live in camps following the war. You're watching BBC Focus on Africa. It's now time for some sports. Mimi, what have you got for us?
Diving, not diving. That's what I've got coming up. We start in football. It's been a talking point over the weekend. Is Sadio Mane a diver? Liverpool boss Jurgen Klopp has come out in defense of the Senegal international and says he's not a diver after the forward was booked for simulation during Saturday's game against Aston Villa in the English Premier League. It comes after Manchester City boss Pep Guardiola said Liverpool players will dive to win games, days before they're due to meet at Anfield this weekend.
Sadio is not a diver. So it was a situation in the Aston Villa game where he got a contact and went down, and maybe it was not a penalty, but there was contact. It's not like jumping over a leg and do like he hit you or whatever. Just there was contact, and all the other penalties were penalties because he was in that situation, stayed there, and I'm 100% sure if something would happen like this for Man City, they would want to have a penalty because somebody kicked the player in the box, and that's a penalty.
We'll leave you to be a judge of that. Nigeria, Morocco and Egypt will have two clubs in the draw for the group stage of the Confederation Cup on November the 10th. Nigeria's Enyimba beat South Africa against second-tier side TS Galaxy 4-1 on aggregate, while Enugu Rangers edged past Togo's ASC Kara on away goals. The Egyptian duo of Al Asri and Pyramids progressed with convincing overall wins, 6-0 over Seychelles side Côte d'Or and 5-1 against Young Africans of Tanzania, respectively. Hassania Agadir of Morocco beat visiting Zambian side Green Eagles 2-1 to make it 3 overall. Right, staying with football, Cameroon disappointing campaign at the Under-17 World Cup came to an end on Sunday as they lost 2-0 to Spain, making it 3 losses out of 3 and only scored 1 goal. That means they topped Group 3 and progressed to face Senegal in the last 16 on Wednesday. Senegal joined Angola and Nigeria in the next stage. Now, Nigeria will now play Netherlands and Angola will play South Korea on Tuesday. To athletics, it was only her first go at it, but Kenya's Jocelyn Kipkosgei came out victorious as on Sunday she won the New York Women's Marathon in her first race over the distance. Kipkosgei, who is the 10-kilometer world record holder on the road, was a comfortable winner in 2 hours, 22 minutes and 38 seconds. Her countrywoman and defending champion Mary Keitany, who was aiming for a 5th victory in the race, came second. And there was more success for Kenya as in the men's race, Jeffrey Kamworor won the men's race, his second success following his win in 2017. All right, following the excitement of South Africa's victory over England in the Rugby World Cup final in Yokohama over the weekend, there has been a renewed interest in rugby on the continent. But how big a sport is it in Africa? Our reporter Grace Ekpu has been to Ajegunle, a poor suburb in Lagos, Nigeria, that runs a semi-professional rugby club and takes the sport to the local schools.
I used to have people around me who say, this game, why are you wasting your time?
They'll be like, this small boy, are you playing rugby? I say, yes. They say, it's for people that has body now, but I'll be like, it's not about that. You can play rugby no matter how you are.
Mike!
My name is Azuka Chika Kelvin, and I play rugby under Ekotu Rugby Football Club of Nigeria.
My name is John Precious. I play for Ekotu. So I just saw this man just walk into my school. He was holding a rugby ball, and I just fell in love with the ball.
Rugby is a new sport in Nigeria. In introducing such sport, you have to start from the grassroots. Full combination of the Nigerian Rugby Federation and everybody coming together to make sure we push this sport to the same level like you have your basketball, like and other sports.
Yeah, the way forward for rugby, start developing the game from the school. So it's good for us to catch them young, to impart the game into the children.
Rugby has changed my life a lot. builds your character in and out of the pitch.
We're sending the message that Nigeria is also a rugby nation. I think Nigeria will be dominating in Africa.
Peter, I went to Ajegunle a couple years ago to do a piece on football. But do you think that rugby can grow?
Well, you know what, Mimi? I mean, a few years ago, I know that there were some schools, you know, Greg's, Kings in Lagos, and some other elite schools in Kaduna in the north who played rugby. Unfortunately, I've just heard that at least one of the schools has dropped rugby from its curriculum. So it's a bit of a shame, but I'm happy to see that it's happening in places like Ajegunle.
Indeed.
Thank you very much, Mimi. Thank you. Now, at the weekend, Nigeria's biggest city, Lagos, played host to the Art X Fair, a major event showcasing the best artistic talent across Africa. But Art X isn't just about the visual arts. There was also a concert featuring some of Lagos's most exciting emerging musicians. One of them was the singer-songwriter Lady Donli. She's 23, but her idols include Fela Kuti and Brenda Fassie. Our correspondent Maini Jones caught up with her and started off by asking her why African music was such an inspiration for her.
Me, I came to enjoy. I just want to enjoy. I need more bread and butter. First and foremost, like I'm African like that. It's inbuilt in me. And when I listen to music from other Africans, or when I listen to music from other people that have been rooted in African culture, there's just a way it feels to me. There's just a way it speaks to me because it's so relatable. I started listening to a lot of music from Gambia, Senegal, and my dad is from northern Nigeria, and like a lot of the sounds are so similar. Like they're saying it's completely different languages, but the sounds, the technique is so similar, so it just always just feels close to home for me.
Tell us about Cash. What inspired it?
When I made Cash, I was really broke. I just finished university and I decided I wanted to come out to Lagos. So this is my first time like just coming out to Lagos full force, you know, leaving my family. And I'm out in Lagos and I cannot be asking, I have to prove myself. It felt like that kind of coming of age journey. So I was just with the band I made it with, the Cavemen. You know, we work a lot together. And I was just sitting down with them and I was just like, guys, man, I'm broke, like, what can we do? And we literally just started playing chords. You know, it has the same chords from the beginning to the end. But I think it's just every Nigerian youth, every youth's like anthem. It's like, yeah, we're looking for money, we're waking up at 4, we're going to work, like everybody's working. And I think that's one of the reasons people like the song so much, because it's just relatable.
Do you think it's you're part of a movement that's trying to broaden the definition of what Nigerian music is?
I think a lot of our music hasn't been archived properly, so people are unaware of the things that existed before. But when I was working on my project, I went and I listened to a whole bunch of African music, like from the 70s, from the 80s, bands that were here, funk, rock, and I was so inspired. And I think for me, that's one of the things I just wanted to show people. It's like there's so much that has gone on before us. We can learn from that, and there's so much that we can still do.
You know, and the lyrics from that song, Cash, include the line, I need cash. Well, don't we all? Don't we all? Now, don't forget you can get in touch with me and some of the team on social media. I'm at Okwoche. But for now, that's it from me, Peter Okwoche, and the rest of the Focus on Africa team. Thanks a lot for watching. Goodbye. See you again very soon.